Punji Sticks. Punji sticks were essentially sharpened bamboo stakes, sometimes coated with substances to cause infections, concealed in pits or under foliage. They were one of the simplest yet most effective traps, causing severe injuries to soldiers who stepped on them. The simplicity of their design, coupled with their lethal effectiveness, made them a notorious aspect of guerrilla warfare during the Vietnam War. The Punji sticks were used extensively by the Viet Cong to slow down, injure, or kill enemy soldiers, significantly impacting the mobility and effectiveness of opposing forces. Bouncing Betty mines. These mines were designed to jump up to waist height before detonating, dispersing shrapnel in a lethal radius. Their design maximized injury potential, often resulting in severe or fatal wounds to multiple soldiers with a single detonation. Bounding mines, such as the US M16 mine and the German S mine from World War II, are triggered by pressure, but include a small propelling charge that launches the mine body into the air. Once airborne, typically about 3 to 4 feet off the ground, the main charge explodes, projecting shrapnel at high velocity across a lethal radius. These mines are particularly dangerous because they combine the effects of a blast mine with the widespread dispersal of fragmentation, making them effective against personnel in open areas. Booby-trapped grenades. Booby-trapped grenade, or grenade in a can. This type of booby trap involved grenades with their safety pins removed, placed inside cans or similar containers along pathways or trails. The grenades were rigged to a tripwire, so when the wire was disturbed or triggered by someone passing by, it would pull the grenade out of the can, causing it to detonate almost immediately. This trap was designed to surprise and inflict casualties on enemy troops, utilizing the element of surprise and the lethal effectiveness of the grenade's explosion. Cartridge traps, toe poppers. Cartridge traps, or toe poppers. These traps were ingeniously simple, yet effective devices used extensively during the Vietnam War by the Viet Cong to inflict injuries on enemy soldiers. The basic construction of these traps involved a cartridge, typically from small arms ammunition, set into a piece of bamboo or a similar tube-like structure. A nail was positioned at the bottom of this setup to act as a firing pin. When a soldier stepped on the trap, the pressure exerted would drive the cartridge down onto the nail, which then struck the primer of the cartridge. This action caused the cartridge to fire, shooting the bullet upwards through the foot or leg of the individual who triggered it. The design was such that it was typically camouflaged and placed along paths or in areas where soldiers were likely to step, making it a constant threat and a source of anxiety for troops operating in areas known to be booby-trapped. Snake pits. Snake pits were among the array of booby traps utilized during the Vietnam War, serving both as physical deterrents and psychological weapons. These traps consisted of pits or holes that were either naturally occurring or deliberately dug, then filled with venomous snakes. They were strategically placed in locations such as the extensive network of Viet Cong tunnels or camouflaged within the dense jungle terrain. The primary intent behind the use of snake pits was to inflict harm on enemy soldiers through venomous bites, posing a direct threat to their physical well-being. The unpredictability of encountering a snake pit in any given area heightened the sense of caution needed to navigate the terrain, potentially slowing down troop movements and disrupting operations. Bamboo whip. The trap described is known as the bamboo whip. This booby trap consisted of a long bamboo pole fitted with sharp spikes. The pole was pulled back into an arc and held in place by a catch connected to a tripwire. When the tripwire was triggered, the catch would release, causing the bamboo pole to whip forward at high speed, impaling anyone in its path with the spikes. This trap was particularly effective due to its combination of surprise and lethal injury, making it one of the feared booby traps used during the Vietnam War. The mace. The mace trap used during the Vietnam War was indeed similar to medieval weapons in its design and function. It consisted of a large spiked ball, often made of metal or wood, which was suspended from a tree or other structure. The trap was rigged with a tripwire, and when this wire was triggered by an unsuspecting soldier, the mace would swing down forcefully. The spikes on the ball would cause severe injuries or even death to anyone caught in its path. This trap was one of many ingenious yet deadly booby traps employed by the Viet Cong to inflict maximum casualties on enemy troops. Tiger traps. These were indeed large, spiked boards or planks that were weighted to fall from above. They were typically rigged with a tripwire, and when this wire was triggered, the trap would release, causing the spiked board to fall onto anyone below it. The spikes, often made of metal or sharpened bamboo, were designed to cause maximum injury or death upon impact. Tiger traps were part of the array of booby traps used by the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. They were strategically placed in areas where they were likely to be triggered by enemy troops, such as along narrow jungle paths or near encampments. The design of these traps took advantage of gravity, making them simple yet highly effective at inflicting casualties. Booby-Trapped Ammunition, Project Eldest Son. The countermeasure you are referring to is known as Project Eldest Son. This covert operation was conducted by the U.S. during the Vietnam War, where U.S. Special Forces and intelligence assets deliberately inserted sabotaged ammunition into the supply chains of the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army. The sabotage involved replacing the propellant in weapon cartridges with an explosive, which was typically in sufficient quantity to burst the weapon from which it was fired, potentially killing or injuring the user. The primary goal of Project Eldest Son was to sow distrust and fear among the enemy forces regarding the reliability of their ammunition supplies.